Hello, everybody, and welcome to your Friday. However your Friday feels, you're having your Friday. Unless you're watching this on catch-up later on, in which case it's whatever day of the week it is and whatever time. I can never get used to that. Can you? I mean, it's just weird, isn't it? That you record something on one day, you put it out on another day, but people might watch it on any day of the week.
Anywhere.
Close to the camera there.
Anywhere as well.
Anywhere in the world.
Somebody that watches that I haven't actually met them yet, who's in America.
Yeah. A lot of the podcasts that I do, Britain is one of the top countries. America is the top country for some of the podcasts that I do. And then it's quite interesting where some of the other ones are. In fact, I was having a conversation with someone this week about podcasts and where podcasts from Britain are quite popular. And where do you think one of the countries is that British podcasts are very popular?
As in people watching.
Yeah.
Your music ones or any?
No, any from the UK.
Talking about this now. Somewhere really random, probably.
Yeah. No guesses. I'll tell you what. Let's bring in our special guest today.
What does it begin with? And I'll have a think.
Here's Naysha. Say hello to Naysha as she comes in, and we'll ask her where she thinks it might be. Hello, how are you?
Good, I'm good, thank you.
Do you know where it is that in the world that quite often watches podcasts from the UK?
It's going to be somewhere really random, some random country.
Yeah, it probably is. Or somewhere like India, somewhere like that.
It's Brazil, believe it or not. Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
It is interesting, isn't it? Brazil watch a lot of UK podcasts. I wonder why. What are they spying on us for? I don't know. Yeah, I'd understand it if it was Russia or somewhere like that. You see, I mean, you just think that they were trying to find out more about us so that they could, invade us one day or something. That might happen.
Excuse my sniffing, I'm freezing in here.
Yeah. How are you, Naysha?
Good, very good. Very busy.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I was going to say, how are you finding the start of 2025?
Yeah, it's definitely just all a bit crazy. I think you have like the Christmas break and everybody goes a bit quiet. I've also noticed that this time round as well, people kind of said, oh, we'll be back, on like the 6th. And then they actually did kind of stay away pretty much the entire time. So whereas usually that doesn't happen, you get a lot of people still kind of hanging around. So yeah, everyone's been quite quiet and now they're all coming back in full force. So I've had
now listen, when you say everyone's been quite quiet, the thing is that some of us actually worked for most of the duration of the period, etc. as well. There seems to be a real difference there demarcation between those that actually just carry on and those that, physically take the time off. Do we think that the fact that Christmas fell midweek had a lot to do with it? Is that, I mean, I found that I couldn't keep up to date with what day of the week it was. I don't know about you. I just completely lost track of time throughout the whole Christmas period. I had no idea whether it was a Wednesday or Tuesday, a Saturday, a Sunday or whatever.
No, it was, it was definitely a bit of a crazy one. I mean, last year I kind of sort of pretty much worked through the whole thing. And this year I was like, and you get to that point and I was like, I am so close to burnout right now. I just need to step away and have some space from everything. So yeah, it was really nice to do that, but it can make it harder to get back into the swing of things once you come back, because your brain gets used to not having to constantly be thinking about stuff. And then, everyone else comes back and then you get like emails and calls booked in and it's just a bit like,
We will come back to you in a minute, Naysha, to find out a little bit more about what you do. But Marianne, you were complete glutton for punishment over the Christmas period, because not only did you carry on with bits of work and whatever, but you hosted people. I mean, that's just mad. Well,
Really.
no disrespect to those people, by the way, if you're watching or listening to this,
Well,
or whatever.
she
But
won't
that's
be.
mad.
She won't be. Yeah, it was. So when I was 18, I went to live in the States for 6 months, and that was quite an experience. And not well, it wasn't a great experience, but I made it into one. And I kept in contact with somebody, and then we carried on in contact with each other. So I went to see her when she moved to Vegas. She was from Idaho. Then her mum came over with her brother, and then I went over afterwards to see her. She came over for my wedding. I went to hers, and then we went over just before COVID. So I went with my kids and my mum and my husband, and it was great because they got to see where I've lived, and then we went to Vegas for Christmas Day, which was the weirdest thing ever. We went from snow when we arrived to going to Vegas, and it was really hot. And then they just decided to come over. So they actually stayed at my mum's, which is sort of 5 minutes away. But we sort of juggled doing the meals, but my friend doesn't eat anything. It was the most stressful experience ever. She doesn't eat veg. She doesn't eat too much. She doesn't eat it like stuff, which I thought, oh my God,
It's a great diet.
I love my, well, just not great stuff. She doesn't eat the great stuff. You know what I mean? So I had to sort of say that I was going to switch off. It was good actually, because it made me be a bit more boundaried with stuff.
Yeah.
Because generally, you know me, I'm just like, I'll work sort of anytime.
But you had to be there for them.
I had to be. But actually, I had all the presents wrapped like 2 weeks before Christmas, which is unheard of for me, because that just, I'll always go, I've got tomorrow. So I had everything wrapped, and it was all sat there. All of the stock, everything was done. And but I then said, well, I'm going to be available, which we did do stuff. But I find with what I do, it's a bit of a funny one anyway, because I had people sending me work, boxing things off, just like in the week leading up to Christmas, like the 2 weeks, I suppose. And I was like, that's all very well for you, but that's going to sit there because I'm not doing any marking. Like, I'm not going to be doing any marking. And I had somebody send me something on Christmas Day. To be fair, it was because he was working. It was a firefighter. I had somebody Boxing Day chasing up why I hadn't marked their work. And then somebody just sent me something on the other day saying they sent me something on the 2nd. And I said, to be honest, I had 3 weeks off. Sorry. And actually your work was due like 8 months ago. So I actually, for the first time ever, you'll be proud, said, I'm really sorry, but I've got other work commitments and I've got other work that's come in. So I'm afraid you're going to have to wait until I've got time.
Those boundaries are so important.
And I did it, and I thought, I've got to, because all it's doing is making me stressed, because and then we set a precedent then that everybody expects. What I will do is I will try, but I said a month, and we're now at 8 months. So
yeah. Naysha, you can tell us a little bit about what it is that you do. But within that, let's talk about those boundaries, etc. Because especially when you do things in like social media land and marketing land and whatever, like people don't respect your boundaries whatsoever.
No, a lot of people don't.
It's hard.
It's hard because social media is 24/7, and so and you have this weird crossover where it's like, you know, before I started working in social media, I was just consuming social media content. So, and I still enjoy doing that. So it's like this weird sort of crossover where I'm never really fully away from what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And people can contact you so easily now these days. You know, a lot of clients, it's no longer really just through email. It will be through WhatsApp or Slack. So, you know, it can be 11 o'clock at night and I've gone to my phone and noticed that one of my clients has WhatsApped me, and I know the answer to that. It's a 2-second question, and I find myself just answering it, and then I'm like, what am I doing? Like, you're setting up this expectation that I'm going to reply to somebody at 11 o'clock at night, but it's almost automatic sometimes. Like, I just do it, and then I'm just like, oh no, I've got to stop doing that. I've got to stop. Like, yeah. So no,
it's difficult, isn't it? Because you want to do it and you want to respond and you want to be there and you want to, you know, and that's part of what you offer to people.
I think also we do it because we know what it's like being the other side. So I tend to be with my learners. I tend to think I know what it's like when you're sat there and you've set aside this amount of time to do your work, and you think, oh, I just need that answer, just need that query, and so I know what it's like, and even the deadlines, because I am pretty horrific with deadlines. So I kind of know what it's like when life takes over, but as you say,
it's so hard. And I think if you, like, for me, obviously I work with like a lot of other business owners and entrepreneurs who, you know, they might work 7 days a week, they might still be up at midnight doing things, and so they're in the middle of their workflow, and then they're like, oh, I just need to know something, just to confirm something so I can continue with what I'm doing, and then they'll send me a message and it takes me 2 seconds to reply. And I feel like, and I've been on the receiving end of that, you know, like I've been doing something at stupid o'clock at night because that's the time I have that day to sit and focus. And then I realize I need something, and it's like, take them 2 seconds just to answer that, and then I can move forward. But at the same time, you have to respect the fact that other people might not have those same work ethics, or don't, you know, are more stern with their boundaries. Maybe they shut their phone off at 5 p.m. and then they don't touch it till the next morning. So you have to, like, it's that weird thing where you have to kind of balance it and respect that other people might not be, well, just like you with the whole Christmas thing, you know, people expecting things from you on Christmas Day or Boxing Day.
Yeah, it's a funny one, because I mean Graham, we know sort of when we're working, when we're not, or it might just be that I'll send you a message, but I'll go, I'm just sending this because if I don't do it now, you even got pictures of me up the Eiffel Tower for Christmas as well. Because I know as well, I'll say to him, I'm just sending you these pictures, because if I don't do it now, I'll forget. But we've got that. And I suppose it is, like you say, you get that understanding with your clients that that you might be at, that I guess that you say, look, I'll endeavour to. I learnt now to say I endeavour to, and my new terms will be, so long as it's handed in within that month, it will be marked within this period of time. But if not, and I'm probably going to have to add a cost in there, because there is a cost involved in terms of my time, and it pains me to do it, but I'm having to now. So
yeah, I think the problem with all of this is that there are very old norms for society that still exist and are sort of the laws of the land, as it were, that we all grow up with as kind of regulation. And I don't know that a lot of them work anymore. I mean, you were commenting on Gemma's post this morning, I think it was, Marianne. Gemma is a relationship coach on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And she was being quite contentious, I think, by talking about, no, not you, Gemma was, by talking about sexting. Well, this whole thing's now going to get banned, by the way. But but by talking about sexting outside of your relationship, etc. But the thing is, and I think you alluded to that as well, which is that the thing is that that was being said on there was that, you know, maybe it's not as bad a thing as people make out, and then suddenly there's going to be a wave of people going, "Oh, it's
I haven't heard any responses to it."
But the thing is, it's seen as a bad thing because, and what she was talking about as well is that if there was communication between you and your partner and you knew it was going on and there was an openness there about it and you were both happy with it, which is one of the things she says all of the time. But if there was an openness and a dialogue about it and whatever, then it would all be okay. But there's a societal norm in place there. I know that's an extreme compared with talking about work, but the same thing applies.
I was saying to somebody yesterday, and it was only when I started teaching sociology that it kind of really made me look at, you know, I've had a pretty 2.4 children, privileged, but not like financially privileged upbringing. That's what it was, you know. Got married, I had 2 children, blah blah blah, and then I did that, and I thought, whoa, this is making me think about stuff. be it from relationships or religion or how society is set up. It made me think about stuff. And actually what I was saying on that post was, because I know that it would feel like as if it was loaded, that it was a bad thing to do that. And I'm not going to judge anyone. I'm not going to give my opinion on it. My point was being that things have to change now because society has changed. And if we judge people, whether it's on relationships or whether it's how people have children, however they bring their children up, or their sexuality or their gender, if we make judgments on how it should be based on what was, there's always, or whether it's going to be if the man's the main breadwinner or whoever it is, there's always going to be a problem. And my point I said on there was, if it was seen as the norm that you would take another partner, it wouldn't be a problem because it would just be the norm. It would be abnormal not to.
Yeah.
So things need to shift. And like you say, whether it's in terms of working, I mean, I see it loads on LinkedIn where you get, I sound like I'm being sexist and I'm not, I'm basing it on what I see, a lot of middle-aged males that will make assumptions about things. This is wrong, that's wrong, a woman shouldn't be. And I'm like, and because they're seeing it from their reality. And quite often I'll sort of step in and say, I think you need to sort of rethink what you've just written.
Yeah. I mean, Naysha, I mean, let's go bring it back around to the social media point of view, but I don't know whether you with your partner or whatever have ever had this where, you know, you were saying like you consumed before you produced social media. So there's a point at which where, and I think anyone that works in social media has had this, where the partner says, or their partner, social partner said, can you put that phone down now? Yeah. Right. And you go, no, but I'm just relaxing. Yeah. It's like, you're working, aren't you? And that's the problem, because it's your work, but you actually do like it, and you always liked it beforehand, and you know you like to know what's going on, and you do want to scroll and whatever else. Then the other person doesn't know what's work and what's not, and that's what the problem is here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You don't even tell anyone what to do anyway, but there we go. Sorry.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely a problem. I think, yeah, because I just feel like I'm on my phone all the time. and it's like, yeah. And I think, again, that's where like the whole boundary things with yourself as well need to come in, where you have this like set time, you know, that it's work focused. Because the other thing is as well, it's really easy to be, you know, doing research for somebody for their business, and then all of a sudden I find myself watching reels. You know, I've just gone down a rabbit hole, and I'm just like, what? Hang on, you know. And it's like, and it's because it's this like weird crossover where it's like, it's just like blurred lines. So
well,
yeah,
and lots of blurred lines, because on the one hand, you might be doing work there. It might be research, but at the same time, you want to get better at stuff yourself. So you just become inquisitive about something, and you just want to like, you press that and you do that and you do that. Oh, that's clever. That, you know, and I think this is the problem. So this is the reason why I brought up the Gemma's post, etc. as well, because I think one of the biggest problems here is that the idea of work and life. And you still see so many posts about work-life balance. I think it's nonsense.
Yeah.
I just think it's nonsense. I don't think it's about work-life balance. I think that work and life are very, very, very integrated a lot of the time these days. And therefore, it's actually about what takes your energy. It's more about that rather than whether it's work or life. It takes, I mean, for me, it takes an inordinate amount of energy getting the kids out of the house in the morning, getting them to school, right? That's hard. That's a lot harder than sitting on a Zoom meeting with somebody some of the time, you know.
I think what you'll see is I saw just before Christmas. So, I mean, it in the end, I was shut off from it all because I didn't go to one single Christmas do. And sort of seeing all of that all the time. And then hearing people about shutting down. And I'm like, well, that's because you work. That's because you probably are employed. And I think there's quite a difference between when you're employed and when you're not. And so if you have got a partner that is employed and they're not understanding, it can be very difficult, because they do switch off. They leave their job and that's it. I mean, I've always taught, and I've got a partner that works shifts, so my life's always been pretty chaotic. Probably not good for somebody that's got ADHD, but it kind of works too. But that whole switching off at Christmas thing actually wound me up, because I just thought, but I want to get on with stuff and you're all stopped. And for me, I do my best posts, I do my best research probably at like 5 in the morning when I'm on my phone, when I'll often give myself a period of time where I do that, because I'm uninterrupted, and I'm relaxing in bed at the same time, and that's what suits.
Naysha, do you talk a lot to younger generation as well in terms of work, or?
Not so much. Yeah, and not so much, I don't think.
Because I'll tell you what I'm finding with my kids, and my kids' age range is, I've got a lot of kids, which means that I've got a good demographic there to pull data from, and so I go from 9 all the way up to 23, and what I'm noticing with my elder lot of children is that they are beginning to look at this work thing in a very different way. And I think we've probably got it all wrong, all of us, is because they are deliberately making choices about how much time they've got for doing stuff outside of what they get paid for. They're deliberately looking for that, as opposed to, I think all of my adult life, once, when I was being told about work or whatever, it was looking at, get on the career path, do this, what's that going to lead to next, how much money you're going to get out of that, then what responsibility you want to take on or whatever. And that just doesn't seem to be being computed in the same way now. And to the point where, with my eldest, when he shifted job after university, he was doing a job for one, and he shifted a job. He went, oh, well, I'm gonna go and do this here because it's 4 days a week, and I want to do my masters at the same time, and then I can take on a bit more if I want to, and but not if I don't want to. And I'm gonna go and volunteer over here, and you just think, wow, right? Whereas I think there's a whole load of us that are just like, let's do more. Oh my goodness. I ain't got any time for anything outside of it.
I think it depends though, doesn't it? I know a lot of people say to me, "You're not working there, Marianne." I go, "Yeah, I'm just doing that stuff in my office that nobody sees," because it isn't just about the bit you see. And so for me, I've been striving to do all of that stuff now, so that I don't have to do so much. Not because I'm being lazy, but I just actually want to enjoy a bit more. Well, a lot more actually.
I worry there might be a skill shortage at some point.
Yeah, there's going to have to be a shift, because I think the younger generations now, like, they're looking at work-life balance in, like, there's this thing, like, you'll hear people say, like, a job is just a job. Like, you go there to earn money to then enjoy yourself outside of work. And the way I've always thought about it is, well, yeah, but you spend like 8 hours a day of your life working for what, like a couple of weeks off a year? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And I think like Gen Z are now kind of looking at that and being like, no, wait a minute, like, I don't want to work 5 days a week in an office and have a weekend off, like they want more out of their lives than they're getting, or than they see us lot having,
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing. I think it is a really good thing that they're pushing for that change, because it needed to happen. It needed to change.
But it won't completely change, will it? Because you can't, at the end of the day, there's always going to be those people that are ambitious.
I don't think that it's that. I think it's potentially whether I might be wrong, people that are neurodivergent tend to have that idea of, like, for me, I look back, there's an office I used to work in when I was younger, and I literally did it for a week, and I walked in and I thought, oh my God, I can't do this. I was bored within 5 minutes. I was just like staring out of the window all day. I mean, I should have known really back then. But there are some people that I think they literally are able to. I'm literally counting down the minutes if I'm, so maybe it is that rather than a generation thing. And then because people they see that it's okay. You don't have to do a 9 to 5. So if your mind, some people like that, and if you don't, it's like it's seen as more acceptable to not like that. And there's options to not. There's options to do something else.
I definitely think it depends what you're built for.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
built to work in an office.
I hated working in an office.
If I've never minded working in an office.
Photocopiers, I've got lots of experience with photocopying going wrong.
I've worked in offices where I didn't like working in the office. The last business where I worked, where I did have an office, but I didn't frequent that office that often because I chose to work from home. The main reason being was I knew that if I went to the office, I would just get asked lots of questions. I would probably not get to my desk for the whole day, because I'd spend the whole day someone going, "Can I just have 5 minutes of your time, please? Can I, you know?" And you just think, well, what was the point of me traveling? I used to have to commute about 180 miles each way. It was like, well, what's the point of me doing that when literally we could just organize Zoom calls and have those conversations? I'm not gaining anything from being there particularly. So, for me, it was like, well, the only reason I would travel is if there were going to be great engagement out of that. And then it was worth being in that situation with somebody. But if it was like, I need 10 minutes here and I need 10 minutes there, you might as well do that over Zoom. And I think the way that people are working is changing drastically. But I do think it matters what you're built for. I mean, if in life you see the stuff that you want to do that you don't get paid for as the more important stuff, then you might as well go and get a job where you get more time.
Yeah.
I know I worked out teaching. When I was teaching, if I worked out how many hours I actually got that I was being paid for being there, and all the work I did, I worked out I was on about £5 an hour. That's why people don't want to teach anymore. Well, it's one of the many reasons why, because it was just seen as a and then in the end people do just reach burnout. They'll do it because they've committed, do it, and then I see people say, oh, teachers don't care, and I said, well, they actually do, to the point that they then put their family last and them. So in the end they will have a breakdown, and that will be the thing that it means. And so then I'm in a lot of groups with people that want to come out of teaching. A lot of people then go into coaching, a lot of people go into training, or they go into loads of other things, and it just does worry me because there's not going to be any teachers left. Not actually going to be any left. And it's great that people are going into other things, but where does it? There is going to be that shortage, as you say, and it's already there.
Yeah.
No, that is worrying. Right, I'm going to put Naysha on the spot a little bit. As we know, Naysha works in social media, etc. So platforms, as we go into 2025, we've gained a few. We've got we've now got some other things like Blue Sky and whatever. Threads came in last year, etc. All a bit of an attack on X, which stupidly changed its name from Twitter. However you want to look at it, this is daft. Because people still say tweet.
I know, still say tweet, still say Twitter.
Even though I think X is beginning to seep into our minds. They've lost a lot of people who have moved to different platforms or whatever. But where are you standing with different platforms at the moment? What are you loving? What are you not loving so much?
I think for at the moment, LinkedIn is, in my opinion, the best place to be, especially if you're trying to grow a business brand or like a personal brand. There's just so much opportunity there for reach and engagement and having like conversations and building relationships with people. And also, you know, like I've connected with CEOs from like big companies and, you know, had conversations with people that I would never normally ever get the opportunity to talk to. Like you just wouldn't bump into those sorts of people. So, and the amount of, you know, content that's actually being posted on there and people that are active is quite low, really. You know, most people have got a LinkedIn account that they've just had since university or something, but they're not using it. In fact, one of my newest clients the other day said that he was asked to set up a LinkedIn account at university for extra credits. So that was like part of it, but he's not used it. You know, it was just something he had. And so, yeah, I think LinkedIn is the place to focus the majority of your attention. Instagram is, it still has its place and it still has opportunity on there, but it's definitely losing it a little bit at the moment. And they keep bringing out like new features and new things, I think, just trying to kind of hang on to their audience, who are all getting slightly fed up now that, you know, the reach has dropped and content's like not getting pushed out. And now they've brought in like the meta verified stuff. So if you pay for that, you get extra reach. So it's just changing into like a pay to play type place.
Yeah.
And the
all of the platforms are changing rapidly now.
They are.
Right.
Yeah.
They're all changing rapidly. And you know, I think one of the things that's interesting for me is I go against a lot of standard marketing advice, which is, you know, get your brand, you know, coherent across all of the platforms and whatever. I say nonsense to that in this day and age, because, you know, I think you find a very different audience in different places. I mean, my Instagram is purely really about music, because that's where I can grow a very specific audience, but who will come across to other things. This is the thing. People think that people are stupid, but they're not. They're much more intelligent, much more diverse than we think they are. And for me, you know, it's being able to go, oh, you're interested in this, but actually once somebody knows you, they might then listen to you talking about something else as well. And that's what I find, you know. So it's I think some of the old school ideas about marketing or whatever need to be shaken up a bit. Now, let's get back to it, because we talk about LinkedIn a lot on this platform. Agree with you. I think there's a great opportunity there, but we think, and we've talked about this a lot, we think there's a lot of noise on LinkedIn as well. I mean, there are a lot of people who are trying to get into posting. They know they need to post more social content, so social worth, etc., story-based storytelling type content. Some of it's just rubbish. I mean, some people, there are more and more people just posting utter paff, is my favorite word at the moment.
And that's the polite version of that.
That's my polite version. Otherwise, this would get banned. Paff on things like LinkedIn. I mean, you know, over Christmas, we saw posts like, shall I put up a real tree? Shall I put up a fake tree or whatever? I mean, honest to goodness, right? And I don't mind. What I've said before is I really don't mind if then someone pulls it back to some kind of value for everybody else, right? But if it just ends up being pure what's meant to be entertainment, or just I'm just gonna tell you something for the sake of it, you know, that for me, and I don't want to sound like the Facebook police, but that for me is what killed Facebook, right? Because it's like, I never really understood where Facebook went. I don't want to know what you had for tea.
I know, but but that's a social thing. I mean, that purely is. I told everybody last night on Facebook that I love watching Gavin and Stacey all over again, right? But that's Facebook, and actually my friends joined in with it.
Yeah.
That to me is the place for that.
A social platform.
My people don't really want to hear about my work necessarily. They're probably not really that interested. Half of them don't even know what I do.
So do you think people are getting it slightly wrong at the moment, Naysha, in as much as, right, they're not quite understanding that whilst people need to see more of you on a platform like LinkedIn, if you then don't actually talk about anything that's relevant to what you're doing and your business and where you want to go and, you know, where you want to take people or whatever, actually it's a complete waste of time.
Yeah, I think so. When I started out on LinkedIn and I started using it, like properly using it for myself, I posted a lot of that kind of stuff, which didn't really have any real, I used it more like a diary or like a journal where I just kind of put out thoughts or, you know, like references or silly things I was thinking or whatever. And I got a lot of traction doing that on LinkedIn. And then when I did start posting stuff that was either like talking about what I do or, you know, those sorts of questions that, you know, the audience might resonate with and stuff like that, I then also got a very, very good response to it. I think the trouble with LinkedIn is like that kind of content that you were just talking about is the type of thing you'd maybe post on like your Instagram story. But obviously we don't have that for LinkedIn anymore. So there's sometimes I have, you know, suddenly had a funny thought about something and I've just thought, oh, you know, it'd be funny. I'd like to ask my LinkedIn audience about that. Yeah. But I can't do that unless I post a post. Like there's nowhere for me to just pop it up as a, you know, like a little story or a little highlight where it's like, hey, you know, what do you think this or this? Or
that's what yeah, sometimes we have that we'll have scheduled stuff, but Graham knows with me, I just think, oh, I just want to ask. Like you said.
And there's nowhere. So you just end up you end up sort of stuck with this, like, well, do I post it? Don't I post it? And I think there's a real emphasis on posting content now that's more human and just there to kind of socialize and have conversations and build engagement. Because it is true that, you know, if you post a flat out sales post on any of these platforms, chances are, unless you have a strong network and community who you've built a relationship with, I think the last time I did a sales post where I actually tried just putting it out there, buy this from me, I got like over 130 likes or something on that from my community, which I thought was incredible considering it was a post that was promotional. But it's because I've kind of built a real community, like a real strong community around myself. So I think that people are like, oh yeah, I need to just put out content that's going to like start conversations and build engagement and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, there is this like line, I think, where sometimes people do get it a bit wrong and they are kind of just using it a bit like Facebook, like you say.
That's what I think. I find it frustrating because I think it's okay if you've already got and you've established a community, so to speak, because I see people posting stuff and I think, gosh, and here I am posting stuff that's related to my work. I'm trying to educate people and it's good, you know, it's good stuff. And yet there's other people over there and I wonder sometimes if it's the people that are to blame. It's the people that are to blame, because as in the people that are consuming it. And mine aren't sales posts as such, but yeah, it is educating people that I know my stuff, I know what I'm talking about, and it's very frustrating when you've got someone over there who's talking, in your words, complete path, or you know, and that gets loads of traction, and you think, well, hang on a minute, what is this all about? You know, I'm sharing who I am, I'm sharing that I'm human, I'm doing a bit of this and a bit of that, but then I've got someone, you know, people, because they've then built that up because people like all that stuff, and you're like, but what are we all here for?
Yeah.
I mean, all of my leads on LinkedIn are inbound, and when I do post like those kind of a bit random posts that seem to do really well. I think one of the posts that I posted which did really well was that one where I dressed up in a bin bag, if you remember, if you saw that, like, and it had like 600 likes and it went a bit crazy, and I got 2 leads come through my inbox off the back of that from big businesses, and it was just like, how? Like, it was so random. So I think you can still get that. And I've seen so many people on LinkedIn, you know, they'll be like, oh, the algorithm's not pushing like my content, like I can't get reach, I can't get engagement. Somebody else who posted something silly about their breakfast has got 500 likes, and I've posted this amazing post and I've got 2 likes. But it is the people that are the algorithm. Like, whatever people are engaging with is what's pushing.
Oh, yes, people's fault. People's fault. People are stupid, and people. But what people want to do is people want to support stuff where they don't have to think about it. I think
that is social media.
I think
it depends on what it is you do, because
mm-hmm.
you know, there's only so many ways that I can make training sound sexy and fun, and there is only so many ways I can do that.
Yeah.
So I think it all depends on what it is you do and you're pushing.
It's the biggest problem that exists on social media is that people that do social media, no disrespect to Naysha or myself or whatever, but the people that do social media are always going to find it easier on social media to sell what they do because they are doing social media. Everybody else, whatever they are doing, is boring compared with when you do social media. You can literally talk about anything, right? Because you can bring it back to doing it on social media, right? And it's the issue that I have with a lot of social media gurus is, right, they have gained their reputation and whatever because they look great, they sound great, they post stuff that's fun and whatever, and then they've sold off the back of that, you know, and they're dynamic or whatever. But Joe, who does hinges for double glazed windows, right, and who looks like the back end of a bus, he's not going to be able to do that, bless him, because he doesn't have the same armory in his pocket.
I do think that plays into it a little bit. Like, I definitely do.
Of course it does.
And it depends on the platform as well. Like, I've had people, oh sorry, you can I've had people reach out to me before and say, you know, like, for example, one of my clients is a quantity surveyor. Now that's boring, like, it is boring, but we're finding ways to make it not so boring. And it's working, like, it is getting traction, it is working. But, you know, I've had people reach out to me before and be like, oh, you know, I'm a carpenter. I want to get on Instagram, or I want to, but it's not like, if you there are carpenter Instagram accounts that are viral because of the stuff they create, like the really catchy videos of them working on something amazing, and it's all, you know, crazy and engaging and stuff like. So there is that side of it as well.
And they look nice and they've got muscles.
Not always, no. But it does. It can. But I think it's a game. Ultimately, it's a game. Social media.
For me, that I have to, like Graham knows, I have to look at who I might possibly be wanting to use me, and mine could vary from a prison through to the fire service, through to you know, I've just got a local council, but I've just had somebody that worked for security, so it could be literally anyone. And so it's really difficult. So I've got a friend that is a quantity surveyor, and this is funny actually, because I put some stuff out and he's very, very quirky, probably autistic, sounds very boring, and he says it is really boring. But he said to me, interestingly, and this is where it's really difficult, because it's almost like trying to change a culture, but also that's not going to happen overnight. That he said, I know that if I referred you or your account to someone, if they saw some of that stuff, they won't use you. You know, and I've got my principles, but also part of what I do is sort of trying to explain to people that I'm me, but I will work with you and I'll work with what you need. And that's what's really, really difficult. And that's what Graham knows. I've had to sort of speak with him about who I am, what I am. I can be fun, but I also have to show that actually I am professional and I do know my stuff. Because if I made it too jokey, are people going to take me seriously?
Yeah, it's one of the big dichotomies out there. I mean, you know, I've had to walk away from clients because
so difficult.
They can't adhere to showing up on social media, or can only they can only show up on social media in a particular way, and that's just not going to work, right? So until that culture changes within the organization that enables them to show up in a way that will work on social media, they're almost better off not being on social media.
I see that it's really frustrating for both of you because, you know, again, Graham, you know, you've spoken with me at length. You know, I'll send you random pictures. I'll do all sorts of stuff. We've talked about what I'm happy doing, what I'm not. I don't do videos, don't like them. So we found a way around it, which is using this as that, which is great. And it must be really frustrating then when you almost then end up sort of doing work on their business, but actually what you're doing isn't working, and you sort of potentially maybe have to walk away then because it compromises you. I know that people ask me to do things, you know, can you shorten what you're doing? And I go, absolutely not. That is me, and I won't compromise on that. And as you say, because otherwise it's a bit like my friend a barber, and he said he won't do certain haircuts because he said that's got my name on it, and I'm not doing it.
I'd love to have a haircut with Kevin.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey?
I don't think social media, you know, works for every business, to be honest, and every type of person. It doesn't. And I know people will sell it and say, oh, anyone, you know, anybody, but it doesn't. If you don't like showing up, you don't like being on camera, you don't like having your photo taken, you don't like, you know, there's so many different reasons.
It becomes really hard for anyone helping you to help you.
Potentially, you can be really good though at working with. It's like me, you know, I have that issue that people say education's not for me. Absolutely not for me. And I'm like, it's probably because of the experience you've had. Whereas actually, if you just sit with me for a minute, and I will work with you, and we'll find a way to make it work. And so Graham knew full well. I said, I'm not doing videos. That's it. I'm not doing them. But he found a way to do it so that I can still show up. And
yet you are.
Oh, exactly. I don't mind it like this, but I think that's where people, that if somebody's doing social media as you do in a good way, it isn't actually just about doing that. And that's why I was really particular about who I had working with me, because I wasn't going to have somebody working with me telling me what to do.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's a little bit like this, and we're running out of time, so I'm going to kind of pull it together. And thanks, Naysha, for coming on today. But it's a bit like this as well, because, you know, the other side of the coin is that everybody tries everything. Right. I mean, 2024, we saw so many people start podcasts and broadcasting and whatever. But do you know what? So much of it was rubbish. You were rubbish. A lot of you, utterly rubbish. And this is the thing. Again, not everybody has the skill set to do it properly. Not everybody can lead a conversation. Not everybody can listen properly. Not everybody can breathe properly. Some people's voices are so boring that you really wouldn't want to listen to. I mean, I've sat and watched some people's podcasts out there or live broadcasts on LinkedIn. Please stop doing it. I do not want to see a PowerPoint presentation and someone going, and the right triangle is very much better than this. Just stop it. Nobody wants to see your rubbish.
Graham, can I say something? Do you know we've been going a year?
We have.
And it's funny because I hear a lot of people say they're going to do a podcast, and I never really thought about it. I'd wanted to do it, and then you approached me, and I was like, oh great, actually, yeah, I will. And it's funny because I don't think people realise just how much it takes, because so often, I'm constantly looking to ask people, and it's great.
A lot of work.
But equally, it's then having to sort of do a few in a week, and just finding an hour seems like it's not a lot, but definitely worth doing. But as I can see, as you say, it's not for everyone.
No, it's not. I think that the key thing is to spend time on learning where your audience is. Where are those people? Because it might be they're all on Facebook in a Facebook group. It might be that they're on X or YouTube videos, or maybe they're just listening to podcasts. So it's finding out where your audience is, and also where you feel comfortable showing up, because actually it might be that social media isn't the way, but you could have a Yelp page or Google Business that you update, or just your website or flyers, or, you know what I mean? There's so many ways.
Or your social media may just be a conduit into the other main activity. It might just be, come and have a look over here, because this is where it's all going down.
Yeah,
and that's all that really matters. We're out of time, folks, but thank you for joining us, Naysha. That was very kind of you today. Thanks for hopefully people will have understood a little bit more about something. If you have, then you're educated more than you were when you started listening to this or watching this 50 minutes ago. We'll be back same time, same place next week with more of the same. Until then, look after yourselves. And if you want to join the community, by the way, head over to A Better Way of Life. There's a button that says join the club. You can. And we'd love to see you in there. Until next week, bye for now.